welcome back to another video on the channel. We're back on GT Sport and we're back with one main FIA race and another one at the end, which I'm going to quickly show you because of some issues with the game at the moment. I'm hoping these issues are going to get sorted, but this race we did a really good qualifying. You can see there, this is the Manufacturers Championship. I chose Renault. Megane, not the strongest car here. It's a little bit, it used to be very strong here, but it's not as strong now on the current BOP. But this lobby was a whole lobby of S-rated drivers, some very fast drivers in this lobby, and we managed to qualify with a really nice P7 there, only a few attempts off the lead in time, which I was really happy with. You can see ahead of GTP, Twizzy in the Ferrari, and ahead of the Aston Martins as well, which is quite a thing to do because that is a strong car on this track. So I was really happy with my qualifying into P7. I think we outperformed our car in a little bit. I really got into the rhythm of driving this car and understanding how you need to be so gentle on the throttle, on the exits, the corners, because obviously it's front wheel drive, so you need to make sure you're not feeding 100% power into them front wheels coming out of the exit of corners. And we did get into a rhythm with this car before this race. I'd practiced for it, I got myself up to speed. You can see there, going through the grid, you can see how far. Going back through the grid, some of the top drivers on the game are still all the way back here now. There's some very fast drivers. Admittedly, some of these had made errors and mistakes and had issues with qualifying for people blocking them and stuff. But it's still the importance of getting that lap in qualifying and getting yourself on the grid. And I chose not to do the pit stop strategy. I chose just to keep doing constant laps. And we hit quite a few. I think it was a couple of 56s, and obviously our first lap was a 56.7, which put us in P7. So going in front to the start, I was feeling really confident, to be honest. This was a nice qualifying. I got myself onto this position on the grid, outperformed the car. I felt I was doing, this was going to be a good race, high rated lobby, so there was some very good chance of getting some high points in this race. But there is, like the title of this video suggests, there is just so many issues with this game at the moment. It's getting a little bit too much. You can see there we've got a massive slipstream on that Ford there going down the straight. We're going to pull out, but then I'm not going to make a stupid move on that inside. This is lap 1. I back off, I brake early, give everyone space down that inside. You can see GTP Twizzy also braking late and going early, going wide, giving everyone space. Everyone seems to get through that corner reasonably well, and we managed to get past the AMG Mercedes, as he seemed to have an issue there in front of I don't know if he got a penalty or something, but we get ourselves up into P6, and now I've just got to try and concentrate on keeping the car on the track. As you can see, there's 3 wide behind me. I was a little bit worried at this point. I didn't know if there'd be contacts or anything going into this corner would cause issues. I couldn't do any of the extra camera angles for this video, which you'll see why at the end. There was no way of me getting the replay data, and so I couldn't go back and do anything like different camera angles anyway, so not much I can do. This is how it is. We're stuck with this view, which I would probably done this whole race anyway from the cockpit, because it would have been an entertaining race if it wasn't for the issues in the game. And I've said it so many times about this game, the penalty system. If this penalty system is not fixed on the next patch, I think there's going to be a lot of players that just move away from GT Sport because it's becoming too much. It's not rewarding clean drivers. If anything, it's rewarding dirty drivers, because you're both getting penalty but they get past you, and I don't like the penalty system at the moment, and it's making me think, do I need to start driving more aggressive? I'm trying to be fair with my driving, I'm trying to be respectful, and I'm not getting the same in return from other drivers. There are drivers out there who do drive fair, who do drive clean, and it's a pleasure to race them. Like Brands Hatch, when we had that race at Brands Hatch, there was some really clean driving going on in that race, and I really enjoyed it. It was fun to be involved with. There was respect in the driving, people have respect for each other, but there's some drivers that just have a severe lack of respect for other drivers and just don't understand racecraft, and we'll get to that as we onto it in the next few laps anyway. So you can see there up ahead, it's getting very congested there. I'm just at this point just thinking, do I get involved with that, because it's getting a little bit, it looks too close for me. So at this point I wanted to hold back a bit, but then I want to be able to stay and take advantage of any errors that take place. So you can see there going side by side, there's some really fast drivers up ahead, and we're just holding back again. Like I say, we managed to have a little look here. I could see there was a possibility to make a move, but I decided to go to the right hand side, brake early, give them plenty of space. I didn't want to get involved with that. I just go through the corner, and just make sure I come out the corner. He has a massive moment on the exit there. He got a massive moment of oversteer, and he's lost a lot of time. I don't know if he got a corner cut penalty as well. So we get ourselves up into P5. So it's all looking fairly good at this stage. You know, we're up into P5. The race is going okay. We're trying to keep it clean. We don't want to be hitting anyone. We don't want any penalties. I want to race fair. I don't want to dive bomb anyone like a lot of people seem to think it's 100% safe to do. I just want to drive clean and get a good set of points. I didn't really think that the win wasn't in question for me in this race, because the Megane, although it's an okay car, it isn't the strongest at this track. It doesn't have the ability through some of the corners, and its 6th gear is not the best. It's good at accelerating through 3rd, 4th and 5th, but then when you hit 6th it seems to lack a bit. As you can see there, I've got the Mercedes going down the left hand side, so I decide to stay to the right hand side, and I give him a little bit of space on that left. You can see I give him plenty of space on the left. I brake on the inside, make sure I brake nice and early, and then hold the inside line so he can't do the undercut on me. And then I get on the power really early coming out the corner, so that I get a really strong exit from the corner, like you would do if you were on a qualifying lap. And that enables me to keep the lead, and then I can hold the defensive line into this right hand side now. So that was all tactical. I did it so that I could get a strong exit from the corner. You can see he's got a long, big slipstream. He's starting to get massive slipstream on me. He pulls out, and then we're in the braking zone. We brake reasonably late, give him space down that left hand side. I see he's on that left hand side, so I stay over to the right, giving him plenty of space. As you can see there, I gave him plenty of space in that corner. I didn't want to turn in on him, so he made a nice clean overtaking. That was respectful driving from Giorgio 57. Then we go down the left hand side as we've got a slipstream coming from that corner with a better exit speed, and we're going to make a move. We've got ourselves on the inside. I think he was fuel saving there to try and get us back past him so he could fuel save, and we're going to go in the braking zone, and this is a really strange one. We take this line perfectly fine. I do not cut that corner at all. I'm going to take this back in a minute and have a little watch back of this, because we get a penalty for that corner cut penalty. I presume it's a penalty unless we made contact somehow with the guy in 6th, but let's go back and have a little look at that. Look at this now. He's on our right hand side. The only thing I can think of is there must have been a slight bit of contact, because we're not even 2 wheels over the white line, and then on the exit, not even 2 wheels over that. That was perfectly fine. I've done qualifying laps way more cutting than that. We've not been given penalties. So I've got a feeling we may have had a bit of contact, but I can't check because of the replay system. There was no way of saving the replay system, which we'll get to later on in the video. So we get a 1 second penalty, and I wasn't, you know, at that point I thought that's not really an issue, because you probably lose some of that in the pit stop anyway, and I wasn't too worried about that. I wasn't going to take it now. There was no need to it. So I thought, I'm not going to let that get to me. It's a penalty that, yeah, there will be issues with the game. Sometimes it will give, you know, maybe some harsh penalties, but I thought, fair enough, you know, I'll accept that. I'm not going to fight it. I was trying to give the guy space on the right hand side. I didn't want to come into contact with him. I was trying to race fair, and I've got a penalty. It's nothing I can really do. So we then go into this corner and we get hit from behind. He taps me into the corner and I get a penalty. Just watch this in the mirrors now. We're going to slow it down. Look where he is on the track. Now, people need to realise not every car can take corners the same. This Megane has to enter corners at a different speed at different angles because it's front wheel drive. So I'm lining my car up. I brake reasonably late and he just outbrakes himself, hits me from behind. I get tapped from behind. Nothing I can do. I'm driving my fair line. He wasn't overtaking me. He just hits me from behind, and I get a penalty again. So this is starting to become an issue with the game now. If this isn't fixed in the next patch, I think the game's going to lose a lot of its player base, because if you're new to racing games or anything, you come onto a game and you're doing that in the corner, someone hits you from behind and you get a penalty, you're going to probably just think, well, I'm not playing this because this isn't right, this isn't fair. But again, I'm thinking 2 second penalty, you know, I'll just stick with this and keep going. We take a nice exit on that corner. You can see there the Mercedes runs wide, seem to be struggling on the outside, and then he's going to go in the pit. It looks like, oh no, he's taking a penalty. He's obviously got a penalty for when he hit me. He's obviously decided to take that now. I decided not to take that. You know, these lap times are way off what we should have been doing. I'm going to tell you something after this race about, you know, how much lap time we're losing because of all this that's going on, getting hit and having to, you know, be really defensive. You can see there, there was an issue in the background. I would have loved to see it on the replay, but someone absolutely dive bombed into that chicane. I'm not too sure who it was, but there was definitely something going on with the red car I seen, and I have no idea who it was, but if we had the replay, it would have been nice to see that who actually did what there, because there was some really dodgy driving again going into that chicane. If you want to go back on the video, skip back to that point and look in the mirror, you'll see it, 3 cars. Looks like one of them dive bombs into the corner and wipes another car out. So whatever happened there, I don't know, but again, it shows the lack of respect in the racing. I understand this is Monza and people want to overtake, but you need to do it in a clean way. As you can see there, we made an error there. We actually braked past the 50 point. I totally got confused in my braking, but luckily we managed to keep the car on the track and got on the power reasonably early somehow. I don't know how I did it, and we can see we were able to not get on the threat into this corner now. So the Aston Martin's getting closer and closer, but he's not really in a position to make a move. So luckily we got away with that, and you can really see the difference in the way I'm having to take different lines to people. I can tighten over the curbs because the rear end is really secure on this car, but I have to take a wide entry point and get the car in really early because this is front wheel drive. I can't just take lines that you would with a rear wheel drive car. And maybe some people don't understand that. As you can see, he's getting closer, closer, closer again in the braking zone, but he doesn't make a move there. He's sensible. He knows that he can't make an overtake at that point. So we're going down the straight now, and you can see he's in our slipstream. The Aston Martin's a very fast car in the straight line. You're going to see the difference now. So you can see he's in our slipstream, and this is my point about the Megane. It used to be an OP car, but it's not anymore. He literally just breezes past me at this point. So I decide I'm just going to let that go. There's no point me defending that. I'll put in fuel mixture 6 and just tuck him behind him. Why fight something that's going to happen anyway and could cause a penalty? So I let him go and think I'll just use you for a bit of fuel saving because it's probably the best thing to do. So we get a better exit from that corner. I decide I'm going to put that in 1 fuel mixture, and he's obviously decided to fuel save or something at this point as well. Because we seem to gain a fair bit, so I have to go back into fuel mixture 6 because I want to stay in his slipstream and just save some fuel for a bit. You know, I might as well, instead of fighting him and losing time in the race, the best option for me here is to save the fuel, use lower mixture, and then when it comes to the pit stops, I'm going to jump in because I'm going to save that fuel. So you can see I'm not worrying too much about overall lap time at this phase of the race. I'm just concentrating on staying with him and just staying in his slipstream. You can see there we're actually 8 seconds behind the leaders at this point, but that's partly because we've had to do some fuel saving and because of the taps we've been getting hit from God knows where, and the issues generally at the start of the race. And they get worse, the issues in this race, they don't get better. This is just a video that I had to bring out to highlight these issues again, and I really hope they do something about this in the next patch. You know, it doesn't seem like these patches are doing anything. For me, the penalty system today is the worst it's been since I started playing this game. When the game first came out, I had more fun racing because you could go side by side. You could, you know, fair enough, if someone did hit you from behind, they wouldn't get a penalty. But the way it is now, they're hitting you from behind and you're getting the penalty, which I don't think is fair, and it's not the way it should be in my personal opinion. As you can see there now, anyway, the guy who's in P5 ends up going in the pits a little bit early. I decided to stay out because I wanted to have the fresher tyres at the end and obviously have the lower fuel at the end, and I knew I'd save fuel, so I decided to put 1 fuel mixture in now and try and go for a reasonably clean lap and then push a little bit harder. You can see we're 8.3 seconds behind the leading battle at this stage. You can see them up there, they're just in front of us and a little bit ahead. I think the guy, you see their P4 6 seconds ahead, but then I think a lot of the issues, we should have really been lapping at 57.0 constantly around this stage of the race, and then a few 56s. That's the type of pace we should have had, you know, looking at our qualifying times and the fact that I knew I could do that pace if I was, you know, free without traffic. So we've got a 1.5 second lead to the guy behind. The Megane obviously starts to use a lot of its front tyres, you know, towards the end of like each phase in the your pit stop phase, etc. Before you're pitting, the front tyres, you can see it on the Delta. The rear tyres are fine. It's the front tyres that go, so you start getting a little bit of understeer and they start spinning up a bit. So you have to be really cautious with your entry points and obviously getting on the power. You can see I'm very cautious before putting maximum power down, but we're doing okay. The guy behind's closing in a bit, but obviously I expected that at this stage of the race, but I knew that overall I was gaining. You look, we've gained half a second on the leader's time at this stage of the race, so we're doing okay at this point. Now I was reasonably happy with this lap. It's not an amazing lap, it's still 2 tenths up on my previous best lap. So it does show you that our pace during them previous 4 or 5 laps was way off what it should have really been. You can see this hasn't really been the perfect lap, but it's been an okay lap, and it's not been terrible in terms of, you know, overall pace. It's just that them front tyres are starting to take some wear. So it's time to pit now and get ourselves in the pit and try and see if we can get some undercut here, because we've obviously saved a bit of fuel. I noticed GTB Twizzy behind us had pitted early. I expected that he had probably saved a fair amount of fuel and was probably going to try the undercut. So we put the hard tyres back on and we're going to fill up slightly over the diamond to counteract the fuel saving we had done in that first stint. I wanted to give myself the ability to run more fuel mixture for the last phase, because I had a comfortable lead to the guy behind and I'd saved fuel. So we come out there, you see, I think GTB Twizzy goes past there, so he had obviously done a lot of fuel saving. And then we'd got a comfortable lap. We'd actually increased the gap after that pit stop phase to the guy behind with nearly 2 seconds ahead. Then going into braking phase, I totally messed this up. I braked far too late. I hadn't practiced coming out the pits and where to brake, and I totally messed it up and just about got on track. And I tried to avoid getting any sort of penalty. And we come out just in front of the guy behind, just about managed to keep him behind there. But we've lost about a fair amount, probably about 2 seconds there on GTB Twizzy, which was a shame. So I felt like I had the pace to put some pressure on him during this last phase. It was my fault that I've put myself in this position where I'm under attack now. So that's fair enough, but it still doesn't mean that drivers can drive dirty the way you're going to see in a minute and make moves that they shouldn't make. This is my point. Yeah, fair enough, I've made that mistake, I've put myself there, but it doesn't invite drivers to then drive like absolute idiots with no respect for other drivers in the game. So the guy I'm talking about is the guy behind us there now. Yeah, I'm not going to start mentioning his name. You know, if you want, you can see it on screen. He's the guy that's caused the issues that I'm talking about. We're going to come to them in a minute. So you can see there, he's fairly close going into the braking zone now, but he's not really in a position to make a move. So I'm not going to go defensive there because there's no need to on this. This is a fast corner. No one's going to make a move into that corner being that far back. So we try and take a nice tight line there. Then again, getting on power as early as possible. We actually start pulling away a bit at this point. You can see we're actually gaining a bit and pulling away, so the lead's going up slightly, but then he's in our slipstream. He expected me to go over to the left hand side. No, he's trying to make me go over to the left hand side, so I then go over to the left hand side point because I've got a 1/10 of a second ahead, and he just throws the most ridiculous, stupid move up on the side. He used me, basically used me as a brake, and without me being there, he would have gone clean off into the trees in this. Look in the mirrors now, my 2 mirrors. Look how far he is behind us. That's the 150 board, and then he's still in the mirror behind. This is a braking point now, and he's still way back. And then look how far he just decides to throw that up, and then just clean swipes into the side of my car. Without me being there, he would have ended up straight on into the gravel up ahead. He literally had no racecraft and no skill. He just decided to use me as a brake, and he tried to defend this move, and it's just disgusting. That type of driving is embarrassing, and that's an Oscaro driver, an apparent professional esports team. Clearly not very professional, pretty much some of the worst driving I've seen on this game. Just have a look at in the mirror there. This is the 50 board, which is you brake well before that, and look at the distance behind. He's over a 1/10 behind, going into the point where you start turning into the corner. So at this point, I would not, if people can start saying, oh yeah, you should have the radar on, but that would make no difference. You wouldn't be looking at the radar at that point of entering a corner. No, you're looking at the apex of the corner because you know that you're safe going into the corner, and only a stupid move would try and make that. So we're then going down the straight. We've actually got back past him into P6. We're pulling away. We're actually nearly a 1/10 ahead into the break zone. We brake late. I even at this point give him space on that right hand side, but he then again doesn't give me any space. He just cuts across his normal racing line. Doesn't run a little bit like we did at the start of the race. I give space on that inside and let the guy take a tight line. He just gives me no respect. Look at this in slow motion. We're ahead at this point. He's just braked really late. He's just decided to take his normal line, give me no space, or cut straight across me. And it's that type of driving that is really annoying on this game. He literally has no skill and no basically racecraft. He just wants to win at any cost, and he doesn't care whose race he ruins. And from now on, I will have no respect for that driver. And if I see him again on the track, I'm not going to give any respect at all to him. So then we come to our next incident, and we've been given penalties for both of them incidents as well. So that shows you that the penalty system is an absolute joke on this game. Anyone who tries to defend it, I'm not even going to listen to, because it's just a joke. So we go into the next braking zone, and again, look at the Aston Martin behind. Just froze. I cannot believe he even did that. Wait until you see how far back he was in the braking zone. My guess is that he's missed his braking point and tried to turn it into an overtake. He hasn't replied yet on message, but this is what my guess is. Let's just have a little look now. That's a braking point there. Look how far. Look at the mirrors behind. I wasn't looking at the mirrors, obviously, at this point. I'm looking at the apex of the corner, concentrating on the car in front of me. And he's just clean swiped into the side of my car. He's just gone into that corner way too strong, totally misjudged his braking and took me out. And then I get another penalty for that. This is what's annoying me about the game. You know, he's made the mistake of misjudging his braking and I get the penalty for it. So it's more instance where the game needs to sort this out, because for anyone new coming to this game, if they're going to come into this game and have stuff like this happen to them, it's going to put them off playing the game, and we don't want that. We want more good GT players. We want better drivers and faster drivers in this game. We want the racing to be cleaner, and at the moment it's not right. It's basically saying you can take someone out from behind and you're going to give them a penalty, so people can give deliberate penalties if they want, because it's just the way the game is at the moment. You know, luckily for us on that one there, on that last one, we didn't lose any positions, but we got another second penalty. So we've now got nearly 8 seconds worth of penalties, which only 1 second of that was probably something that, you know, wasn't other people's fault. It was because I think it may have been where I was obviously trying to give the guy space on that right hand side going into that chicane, but even then we didn't take enough off the corner to warrant it. We had two tyres still within the track limits, and as far as I'm concerned that should be perfectly legal. But you know, I wasn't too worried about that. I accept that, and nothing I can do about that. That's just something that happened. But the other nearly 7 seconds worth of penalties, it's been nothing but people driving like absolute idiots and having no respect for anyone else. Luckily, the guy behind us now in this race, Lightning, OVR, the Lightning, not the TRL Lightning that some people may confuse him for. Clean driver. I've never had an issue with him. I've come across him a few times and he's always raced fair and clean. He's never tried stupid moves. So at this point I thought, at least I've got someone behind me now who's not going to be an idiot. And when I messaged the guy in front of me, the Ascara driver in front of me, about that incident, no apology, nothing. All he said was, my car was too fast in the straights, his car was fast around the corners. That was his excuse for making that move. So basically saying, I couldn't get past you fair, so I had to basically just ram you out of the way because I had no skill to actually make a proper overtake. That is basically what he's saying. And he tried to even say that I was blocking people the whole race. Now, if anyone saw any evidence that I was blocking people, all I feel I was doing was giving people respect, and even letting people pass when I knew there was no point fighting them. I wasn't racing with any lack of respect. I was giving people space on the track, even into that first chicane when I stayed to the right hand side to give the guy in the yellow Mercedes the inside line. I stayed to the wide angle to give him the corner, because if I did what he did to me, we would have both got penalties, because I've got an understanding of racing, and this is where some people are lacking. And this guy ahead was saying that he was so much faster than me and all this, but he was 1.4 seconds when that incident happened, when he got past me, and after the second incident at the chicane. Let's see if he manages to build that up through the remaining laps, because at the moment it's staying at 1.4 seconds. He's not gained any time at all on me. So for his excuse that he was so much faster than me that he had to make that move and barge into me and use me as a brake, you know, it doesn't make any sense, because he's not gaining time on me. He's not pulling away. He's not showing any evidence that he had enough pace to warrant doing something as stupid as that. And to be fair, it's kind of what I expect from a lot of people now in this game, because I've come across so many drivers that are just quite happy to dive bomb into these corners and make stupid mistakes. And I do feel like I'm complaining about this game a lot, but you know, if the racing is good and you're racing clean people like we did at Brands Hatch when we had that amazing race, respectful driving from everyone, people was giving everyone space in terms of when you're exiting the corners and when you're in the braking zones and when you're in, you know, overtaking, there was just a lot of mutual respect, and I enjoy races like that, because you can, when you see that someone's got respect, you know that you can get close and you can race fair and the racing's brilliant. But when you get people like that in front of us, the guy in front of us and the other guy who just dive bombs, and people that just can't race close, the game's just not set up for it, because the penalty system cannot cope with any sort of contact at the moment. It's just giving penalties to everyone. It's saying, oh, we don't know what's going on, so we'll just give you all a penalty. And they need to fix that, because it's just not right. There's no way. You know, I go back to this thing that I've said before. If a car is in the braking zone, say have a braking zone point of, you know, it's not hard to work out for each class of car. Every car is going to have a limit of its braking. Say a 50-yard braking zone. If the car is hit within that braking zone, the car behind needs to be given the penalty all the time. You know, I know that it's the only way to do it, because the game, the penalty system cannot be clever enough to judge what's been going on and stuff. They just need to have that system. But you know, if it's done on a straight, then fair enough, the car in front should be given penalty because that's brake testing. But if it's in the braking zone, then it needs to not give the penalties to the car ahead, because there is just no reason for the cars ahead to be given a penalty in the braking zone when someone's hitting the rear of their car. And that's the only fair way they can do this penalty system for the braking zones, because otherwise people are going to abuse this system and keep doing what he's done there, just take a penalty to get past, and he knows I'll get a penalty as well. So there is literally no, he probably had a lot of penalties in this race as well. Well, I doubt he'd have had as much of us, because everyone's been pretty much using me as a brake and hitting the rear of my car, the side of my car, and it's genuinely been a horrible race, and one that I hope doesn't repeat itself soon. You know, there's been other issues with this game. You can see now we're on the last lap, and we're going to come to the last issue in this race. It's an issue that has been happening to me a few times since patch 1.15, I think it's been, since the T500 RS fix. It probably got introduced on 1.14, but I couldn't play the game when I had no steering wheel. So this is what's been, I've had a couple of times this has happened, maybe 3 times now, and I know a few other drivers. I know Lightning, TRL Lightning, I spoke to him on Twitter, and he also said this issue happened to him a little bit, I think, at the end of the race, and he also lost out his driver rating points. You can see there, we've lost connection in the race because all the other cars have gone on track. I knew straight away now this means I've lost connection, and the annoying thing is my internet was fine, there was no issue with the internet, it's just we've lost connection, and we're going to get disconnected now. So you're going to see there, it's going to pop up, we've been disconnected, and we've just lost out on some probably reasonable points. Even though we had the penalties, we still would have got good points because that was a very high rated lobby. So we've gone away with 0 points, and I was really frustrated. So we moved on to the FIA Nations, thinking maybe we'll get a bit of luck in this, and then we go into qualifying. I noticed the weird issue with the sound on the right hand side noises, and I thought this is weird. So I went in the pits and was gonna just like turn my headset on and off just to see if it was my headset, and it wasn't. As soon as we came out the pits, the sound completely went. This is you can hear it now. There's no sound. For some reason, the only sound I was getting was on the curbs. I could hear the car going over the curbs, and even when I went into when I've recorded this footage, if I tried to watch it back on the PlayStation, it wouldn't let me. The PlayStation was saying this isn't watchable. I had to copy it over to a USB and put it on the PC to even watch it, and even then, I don't think the curb sounds came across it when we was driving. When I watched this, there's just no sound. It's just a strange one. And another issue that I'm having, this has all been in one day, these issues, and we couldn't, the qualifying lap was terrible. I think we put P4, it was 2 seconds off what I had potential for, and I'll explain why I know that, because something that I've done now, because I want to be able to race these races more if I get the chance. So what I've done is I've created another account now, an American account. I want to get that to SS rated and start racing against some American drivers and the Brazilian drivers and stuff. So I've done that. So after this race, obviously I went over to the FIA Nations, their race. Obviously I'm pretty much I think I'm ES rated at the moment. So we've only had 2 races. We won it comfortably. It was a fairly easy race, but we did make a mistake in the race. We spun it, but even then, in qualifying, our lap was a 54.6, which wasn't particularly great, but it would have put me P2 on the grid in this. But we had no sound when we were qualifying in this, so I can't explain how much sound means when you're racing a car. You need to hear the downshifts, you need to hear the accelerator, and the amount of times I was hitting the limiter in this race, I spun a few times because I was in the wrong gear, and it was just a disaster. There wasn't much I could do. So we had no sound in this race, and it's another issue with the game. I don't know if anyone else has experienced this. This is a rare one for me. I have to I'll have to say I've never had this issue before. This is the first time I've come across this issue, that you get no sound. And I've tried Googling it, I've not come up with much in terms of online, but you can hear now. I'll stay quiet for a bit and just listen. That is how we had to race this race throughout, and I tried my best. I think I ended up P6, but we spun so many times, and there wasn't much I could do. I just had to try and get to the end without losing, obviously, too much DR again, because we just had the disconnect. I didn't want to just lose a load of DR and lose rank and stuff, so I decided to just carry on and just drive it like that, which was probably not the best thing. I think, yeah, we came P7th, but listen to this noise now. This is the noise that happened as soon as we exited that, and you'll hear real strange noise, which shows there's an issue with the game. So obviously there is some sort of like bug that's caused that sound, and I'm not sure what it is. I don't really go on forums to report this, so if anyone wants to report that sound bug, feel free to use my video as a link. Obviously there's the other penalty issues with that, but it's at the end of the video. So there's a sound bug there, so we had to drive that whole race with no sound, which again is not good enough for, they cannot release these FIA races from the test seasons until these issues are fixed, because they just can't do it. You can't have people getting these issues. So this needs fixing. Hopefully this won't be a hard bug to fix. Hopefully they might already know about it. I'm not too sure. But just hopefully a lot of these issues can get sorted, because I really like, it may not sound like it, but I do like the game. I love Gran Turismo. But when these issues are popping up, it's hard to like keep patient with it, because these issues have been happening for a while now. It's not like they didn't know about it. They've had 2 patches to get these issues fixed with the penalty system, and the system is still broken. It's not good. I've heard so many people commenting about they're not playing the game until these issues are fixed, and they'll just literally go and play something else. I really hope they get on with this, because they're going to lose a lot of the fan base, and I don't want that. I don't think anyone else wants it. We want to be racing the best drivers on the game, and let's just hope they get it sorted soon. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. There was some okay racing in that. I know there was a lot of penalties and a lot of complaining about other drivers, but I felt I had to get it off my chest, because I'm starting to get annoyed about the way people are driving on this game, and I think people need to start learning some respect. So hopefully we can have some better races. We've had so many good races on this game, and I want to get back to them. So hopefully that can happen soon. Unfortunately, we've got 0 points for the FIA manufacturers from that race because of the disconnect, and it would have been a very high scoring round. So we've just got to try and do our best for the remaining races to get in that top 24 stars race. I will do my best, and hopefully we can do that. So anyway, guys, thanks again for watching the video. We'll be back with more of these videos very soon, and thanks again for watching, everyone.